This is the music of my mind, which is soft, gentle, fleeting and benign. It is part of me and brings no harm, so whether I listen or ignore it, I stay calm.
My problems with my ears started when I was 5.
Because of doctors, they've said it that I have actually got hearing loss. It's worse in one ear than the other.
I have a perforated eardrum in my right ear.
So I have it's only my right ear, and in that ear I have a constant staticky sound, and then sometimes it will change to a whooshing sound, and then sometimes it's a much bigger noise and the tone of it will change.
But I actually went, no, not recently, I was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, went and got my hearing tested, of all places, to Specsavers. And the girl said, look, your hearing is sort of, is normal for your age.
I guess I probably don't remember a time before when I didn't have ear problems. And my earliest memories are certainly around having significant pain in my ears.
It feels like it should be painful, but it isn't.
I started off with my left ear being really bad and having a hearing aid. And then I was like, well, actually, I'm not balanced right. I was hearing things from over in my right that should have been in my left, if you know what I mean. It was overcompensating.
In darkness, it seems to be worse. Say if I wake up in the middle of the night and everything is really, really quiet, it really seems that it's intruding.
It's made me a louder person. And people have always tried, especially when I was younger, people would be like, oh my God, you're being so loud and stuff like that. And I just would not realize that I was just shouting.
So I often end up being way too loud. And I don't realize I am on the phone and on the thing. My parents often tell me that I'm, being too, and I don't think I'm shouting or anything.
Socially, it's really tricky. I'll give you an example. If I go into a pub and there's only a handful of people, that's great. If there's, half a dozen people at the table, I can cope with it. It's lovely. When more people start coming into the pub, all these different sounds are coming from different areas, and it's really disorientating. So I tend to back out of social parties, things where I know that there's going to be a lot of people, because I can't concentrate on too many voices.
If I were to make it a sound, it would be like
an annoying, not a buzzing, but like but that is, it feels like it's going to be climaxing into something.
It would be a muffled, it wouldn't be a clear sound, so it would be definitely muffled.
It does vary from time to time, but predominantly it's the sound of cicadas.
It's like a high-pitched pinging sound. If you can understand what I mean by that. I couldn't really say it sounds like a. Maybe if you've got a very high, you got the high guitar string right down at the very end, and you pinged it, and you get that.
when you can hear really well, you take it for granted that birds singing in the trees is everyday occurrence. If you're experiencing, deafness, you're not going to get things like that. So it's the little things that are the best.
David and his mum and I were walking last Saturday, and when we got to the apex of our walk, it was very hot, we were very tired, we lay down on some very comfortable grass, and I think we were almost fast asleep. I certainly was, and we were woken to the sound of a skylark, which is, quite remarkable, because I haven't heard a skylark for about 15 years. So to be woken in a most beautiful place on a lovely spring day to hear the sound of a skylark was absolutely wonderful.
My favourite sound, without a doubt, would be the sound of the sea. And I find that really soothing. And interestingly, my tinnitus is probably quite replicated in the sound of the sea, that sort of the whoosh, and maybe that's why I like that sound, because it's a sound that I know that everybody is hearing and not just me, and it becomes part of what I'm hearing. So often at night, if I can't sleep, I'll listen to the sound of the sea. I used to go to sleep listening to the radio because my tinnitus would be annoying me, so I put the radio on. But as I've got older, I've changed that, and it's definitely the sound of the sea, and I find that really relaxing.
When I first got fitted with my hearing aid, I was chatting to the guy, the audiologist, and so he was saying, right, okay, we're going to balance it all out now on the machine, and he did made me aware that I would hear things that I would be quite surprised at, and sat in the office with the audiologist, and he put the hearing aid in my ear, and that's the first thing I heard was the rattling of paper. It was like, oh, that's a bit strange, but it was a good strange because it was working.
I got so fed up of being deaf in my right ear. I actually went to the emergency CVS pharmacy in the end and asked them to syringe my ear, and it just completely unblocked, and there was suddenly I could hear again, and it was just a really amazing feeling. But it was damaged, it was permanently damaged. That was the problem.
Nobody wants to. I don't know why you don't want to admit that you've got a hearing problem, but it probably sort of goes with old age and that side of, well, if I've got a hearing problem, there must be, I'm getting doddery.
Frustration, I would say, is the biggest thing, because other people don't get it. Unless you've got it, other people don't, you don't get it yourself. And it's not until you start talking to other people that frustration comes in, and you just say, actually, I can't do what other people are doing, and you want to do it. So that comes into it, and that I would say would be the biggest word that I would use.
Particularly in the car, it's happened when I've been in the car with maybe with one of the lads, and they put some music on. Maybe they put some heavy rock music on, which has got a really heavy bass sound, and I've had to turn that down. I can't. It seems like I'm losing my concentration when the sound gets, for me, too loud. And they're going, and their opinion, it's not. Well, I don't know what you're talking about. It's not very loud, but I think my hearing is actually quite sensitive, particularly if the bass sound is start to thumping, almost to the point where it hurts. I find it, and it's certainly I find it very difficult to concentrate when that happens.
I was meeting a new group of people that were my friends, and my friend, who's quite our relationship is very much making fun of each other. But then one of the friends was one of the mutual friends was kind of like, "You're so loud. Can you stop being so loud?" And then instantly my friend Kier jumped in and was like, No, he's actually got bad hearing. He's not really choosing to be that loud. And then instantly the other guy who'd said it, kept being like, "I'm so sorry, I didn't know. I'm really sorry about that. If I'd known, I would never." And my feeling with that is, I was being too loud, and I appreciate someone telling me. Maybe doing it in a slightly nicer way. I would hate it if people had to tiptoe around me, which they might do, and just sort of be like, well, we're not going to tell him to be quiet because, he can't help it. Because that's not how a normal person works. And I don't want to be resented, just because I have something where I can't control it.
I think in order to live with it, you have to kind of ignore it because you can't do anything about it. So you have to almost pretend you don't have it, because it could drive you crazy.
I think there's a general awareness of people who have any understanding of aspects of audiology that tinnitus affects people very differently, and it's the response that you have to it that is critical. I know people with tinnitus who've woken up getting it one day from nowhere, who've just shrugged and said, well, so what, Other people I know have committed suicide.
Yeah, it's something you almost have to, or I have to, kind of almost pretend that I don't have. It's although it is there, I don't complain about it, and I don't use it as an excuse. I don't sort of turn to it when, my wife would say to me sometimes, you need to get your hearing sorted, and I don't turn around and say, oh well, that's because I've got tinnitus. I've never used it as an excuse for that sort of thing, because I don't think it is a problem. I don't think it affects my hearing, funnily enough, but maybe it does. But I've never felt that it's been a problem in regards to me hearing things or whatever. But that might just be me living in denial, because I don't want it to take over, and I don't want it to, I'm trying to control the feeling. So in that respect, yeah, I try to put it in the background, and look, it's just something there. It's a bit like, something you have to live with, and it's just the way it is. So denial, I think is the word.
The adaption, and it varies for people depending on how they respond to it. For some people, they don't have to adapt at all. They just get on and it exists and it doesn't bother them. For me, there was a huge amount of adaption, and that started with the quite correct initial response that there was no cure for it, and one shouldn't waste time trying to look for a cure, because that's one of the problems that really does exist for long-term tinnitus sufferers who are trying to fight it, trying to cure it. There's no way to get through that, and I'm very sorry for people who cannot come to the understanding that it's actually something from within. It's not sinister and something from outside. It's part of your own personality. The way I adapted to it is to recognize that the only thing that would work for me would be some good self-talk, now called CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. And my way of harnessing that was to devise a mantra that I would use when I thought that tinnitus was overpowering me. And that's been the thing that's kept me from crisis. The ability to simply ask myself the question, what is this? Is it harmful? Will it do me any harm? Will it do me any lasting damage? No. Right, okay. Well, cope with it until it stops. I've been using it now for 13 or 14 years, which is dead simple. This is the music of my mind. It is soft, gentle, fleeting, and benign. It is part of me and brings no harm, so whether I listen or ignore it, I stay calm. There's very few days I don't actually use that at least once or twice. Sometimes I use it 30 or 40 times if the day is really difficult.